Hi, it's Valen again. Um, Again, only going to do something short because it is just a bloke sitting in front of a camera. But today I'd like to talk about why I think the Conservative Party in the UK are wrong to say that they are helping the lowest paid people by taking them out of tax. It's quite simple, really, and actually speaks to how they are trying to force permanent austerity onto the UK. Now, it seems to me that by raising the personal allowance in tax seems like a brilliant idea. It actually isn't. It does nothing to help take people out of poverty. Why is this? Because it does nothing to help the cost of living. Because it's taken people out of tax, that reduces the amount of tax revenue that is coming into the state. At the same time as the highest paid are going to be having their tax level reduced as well. So they get to keep more of their money, which again sounds like a good idea for the rich, but isn't very good for the country because you're reducing tax revenues from the bottom and reducing them from the top as well. So you're squeezing the amount of tax you get to a very narrow band of people, or a very narrow amount that you're going to be getting. The best way to help people out of poverty is to legislate for a living wage. Now, this shouldn't be like the national minimum wage, because the national minimum wage works in some areas where the cost of living is lower, but it doesn't work where the cost of living is higher. So if you have the national minimum wage in a town in the north of England, it's still probably not good, but it's better than if you live in the capital. Again, this kind of divides the country into north-south, haves and have not, but it's the reality. The reality is, if you live in the south, it costs more to live than it does in the north of the country. So, shouldn't the best idea, so we get tax revenue from as many places as possible, is keep the tax for the highest earners at 45p at least, or in my opinion it should go up to 50, but there you go. That will never happen under a Tory government, and probably wouldn't happen under a Labour, so don't think I'm being partisan here. But what you should do is make sure that the people who are earning a load, i.e. not earning a load but are running corporations and got lots of money, make sure that those companies, most of whom probably avoiding tax in one way, shape or form, actually pay a living wage. Now, the living wage could be, say, £8 in the north of England. This is only an example. That might be enough to be a living wage up there. I'm not actually saying that this should be the actual money that you get. This is just, like I said, an example. Where down the south, in London, perhaps, the living wage might have to be £10 an hour. This would ensure you could drop the personal allowance if people were being given a living wage, because they would be able to afford to live, but also afford to pay tax on what they earn. And this I imagine would be a better system. You're getting more tax revenue from the bottom, you'd be getting more tax revenue from the top. So instead of getting tax revenue from this amount of people, you get it from this amount of people. Doesn't that seem a better way? Taking people out of tax at the lower end does not reduce poverty. It has been proven that more people who are on low wages suck money from the welfare fund because they are so low paid. Taking them out of tax is not going to change that fact. They will probably still have to go on some kind of benefit. But if you want to reduce the welfare, then the only way to do that is to make sure people are paid properly, a wage that they can live on and still pay tax with, and that means if they can pay tax, you're getting more tax revenue, more money to spend on the welfare, which the spending will go down as well because people are being paid properly. So why aren't the Tories doing that? That is because, as far as I can see it, they want permanent austerity. Permanent austerity is brilliant for those who earn a ton of money, who are on the highest incomes because they've reduced the amount of tax they're paying, so they get to keep more. And it is worse for the people at the bottom because, one, they're not earning enough to live. There is also the problem that because of the low pay, they are having to go on benefits which are then being cut, which makes them even worse off. And it's also really hard for the disabled because they are literally getting hit 9 times harder on any of the cuts than any other group, which isn't fair. We know that because human nature is the way it is, there will never be full equality. And I don't think anyone actually believes that there could be. But what we need to do is reduce the gap between the poor and the rich. Otherwise, this country is going to end up a load of rich people and a load of corpses. Thanks for listening.